My husband didn't invite his parents to our wedding, but my in-laws showed up unexpectedly, turning what was meant to be the happiest day of my life into a scene of chaos. As I stood there in my wedding dress, my mother-in-law stormed in, her face red with anger, and began yelling at me. "You dishwasher," she shouted, glaring at me. "How did you come into my son's life?" Her harsh words cut through me like knives, and she didn't stop there. She even insulted my family, belittling them in front of all our guests. The embarrassment was overwhelming, and I tried to ask her to stop, pleading for some peace on our special day. In a fit of rage, my mother-in-law walked up to me, grabbing my hair and pulling it so hard that I fell to the floor. Gasps filled the room as people watched, shocked and unsure how to react. I felt humiliated and helpless. But then, my husband stepped forward, his face filled with anger and disbelief. He pulled his mother back, firmly asking her to leave the event. His calm but strong stance made her step back, and eventually, she left, fuming. Although she was gone, the damage was done, and I was left with a deep pain, not just physically from the way she'd pulled my hair, but emotionally from her cruel words and actions. I decided I wouldn't let this go. With the help of a close friend, I started planning my own way to handle what had happened. The very next day, I gave my in-laws a surprising response that left them speechless. My name is Rachel Wise, and this is the story of my life. A story filled with love, betrayal, and a determination for justice. I'm 33 years old and currently a law student, but not so long ago, I was working as a dishwasher in a small restaurant in Lansing, Michigan. I never thought I'd find love in such an ordinary place, but sometimes life surprises us in the most unexpected ways. This story starts on a rainy afternoon when Adam Yeager walked into the diner for the first time. I was busy in the kitchen, scrubbing pots and trying to ignore the clatter of dishes and the loud sizzle of the grill. Then, needing to refill a coffee pot, I stepped out front, and that's when I saw him, Adam. He was tall, with dark hair and an easy, warm smile that seemed to brighten up even the cloudiest day. I felt an unexpected warmth wash over me and a strange flutter in my stomach. "Can I get you anything?" I asked, trying to sound professional, though I could feel my voice shaking a little. "Just coffee for now," he replied, his gaze fixed on mine. "Black, please. And maybe your number if you're not too busy." I laughed, a little embarrassed by his forwardness, my cheeks flushing. "Sorry, I don't give my number to customers. Company policy." He smiled, unfazed. "Is that so? Well, I'll just have to come back every day until you change your mind." True to his word, he showed up every single day for the next 3 weeks. At first, it was just coffee and small talk, but I quickly found myself looking forward to his visits. He was charming and genuinely interested in my life, and there was something about him that made me feel seen, like he was looking beyond the surface. For the first time, I felt like someone truly appreciated me for who I was, not just where I worked or what I did. Finally, after 3 weeks of his persistent charm, I agreed to go out with him. "Fine," I said, trying to sound casual. "One date. But don't get your hopes up, Mr. Yeager." That one date turned into 5 blissful months. We spent so many evenings laughing over cheap takeout, going for long walks by the waterfront, and sharing our dreams for the future. Adam was different from anyone I had ever known. He didn't care that I worked as a dishwasher, and he valued me for who I was, not for my circumstances. As our relationship grew deeper, we began making plans together. He saw a future with me, just as I did with him. Little did I know that this journey would bring not only joy, but also hardship. My love story, one that began in a small diner, would soon test my strength in ways I never imagined. Through love, betrayal, and courage, I'd find myself fighting for respect, justice, and a place in a family that had tried to tear me down. As my relationship with Adam grew deeper, a lingering worry began to creep into my mind. Adam came from a world so different from mine, one where wealth, status, and connections defined people. I worked as a dishwasher, and although I was proud of my honest work and my dreams of becoming a lawyer, I feared that his family wouldn't see me the same way. One evening, As we sat on the couch watching the rain trickle down the windows, I voiced my concern. "What if they don't like me?" I asked, feeling a knot form in my stomach. Adam wrapped his arm around me, pulling me close. "They'll love you, Rachel. They just need to get to know you," he said reassuringly. But I could see a flicker of worry in his eyes, a hint that he, too, wasn't sure how things would go. Just after we celebrated our 5-month anniversary, Adam took me to our favorite spot by the waterfront. It was a beautiful evening, with the moonlight casting a gentle glow on the water, and the world felt calm. As we stood together, he suddenly turned to me, his eyes filled with a tenderness I'd never seen before. "Rachel," he said, his voice steady yet brimming with emotion, "will you marry me?" I was speechless, tears filling my eyes as I nodded, hardly able to believe it. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes," I managed, overwhelmed with joy. As we began planning our wedding, I felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Adam's parents, Larry and Catherine Yeager, were successful business owners and had always lived a life of privilege. I had never met them, and as the day of introduction approached, I worried more and more about what they would think of me. I knew they owned a thriving import-export business, but I had no idea just how strict and judgmental they could be. The day finally arrived, and Adam arranged for us to meet them at a lavish restaurant. As soon as I walked in, surrounded by chandeliers and gold accents, I felt out of place, like a child playing dress-up in an adult's world. The Yeager family was everything I wasn't: wealthy, refined, and confident. Larry Yeager had a stern, imposing presence, while Catherine carried herself with sharp elegance, her eyes sweeping over me with cold curiosity. "So, Adam tells us you're a dishwasher?" Catherine asked, her tone laced with condescension. "Yes," I replied, trying to stay calm and confident. "I work at a diner while I finish my law degree." Larry scoffed, barely hiding his disdain. "A law degree, really? That seems ambitious for someone in your position." My heart pounded in my chest, but I forced myself to stand tall. "I'm determined to make something of myself," I said, hoping to show them my resilience. But their attitudes only grew colder. The entire dinner was filled with veiled insults and icy glances, making it clear that they thought I was nowhere near worthy of their son. I could feel my confidence slipping, but I held my head up as best as I could. After we left the restaurant, I turned to Adam, my heart heavy. "They don't like me," I whispered, trying to keep the hurt out of my voice. "It doesn't matter," Adam said, pulling me close. "I love you, Rachel. That's all that counts." But I could feel his own tension, the pressure that his family's opinions placed on him. Despite his parents' disapproval, Adam and I decided to have a small wedding with just close friends. We hoped that by keeping it intimate, we could avoid any further conflicts. But in the back of my mind, I was nervous about what would happen if his parents found out. On the day of our wedding, just as I was about to walk down the aisle, the doors burst open, and I froze, seeing Larry and Catherine standing there. Their faces were contorted with fury, and the entire room fell into a shocked silence. "What do you think you're doing?" Larry shouted, his voice echoing in the hall. Jessica stepped forward, her voice as cold as ice. "You can't marry her, Adam. She's a gold digger. Just look at her." I felt my face flush with humiliation, standing there in my wedding dress, under the scornful gaze of my future in-laws. I wanted to disappear, to escape their judgmental eyes, but I couldn't move. "Mom, Dad, stop this." Adam's voice was firm, his face filled with anger. "Rachel is the woman I love, and nothing you say is going to change that." But Catherine wasn't deterred. "You're making a mistake, Adam. She's only after your money, and once she has what she wants, she'll leave you." I felt a surge of pain at her words, but Adam stepped forward, his eyes blazing. "You have no idea who Rachel is, and I'm ashamed of the way you're treating her." His voice was steady, and I could see the depth of his love and determination. My heart swelled with gratitude, but the hurt lingered. Even though Adam defended me, his parents' disdain was a shadow over what should have been the happiest day of our lives. I knew then that being a part of his life would mean constantly proving myself in a family that didn't want me. With Adam by my side, I hoped I'd find the strength to rise above it all, but that day was only the beginning of a struggle that would test my courage, my love, and my resolve to be seen for who I truly was. Here's a revised, longer, and simpler version of your story. My cheeks burned with humiliation as I stood there, hoping this nightmare would end. "Please, just let us have our day," I begged, struggling to keep my voice calm, though every nerve in my body was tense with emotion. But Jessica, my mother-in-law, only grew more relentless. "You really think this poor girl can make you happy?" she sneered at Adam, her voice sharp and unforgiving. "She'll only drag you down." I felt my heart pound faster, and a prickling heat rose in my eyes as tears threatened to fall. I opened my mouth, desperate to defend myself, but before I could say a word, Jessica lunged at me. Her fingers wrapped around my hair, yanking me down with such force that I stumbled and fell to the ground, completely humiliated. Gasps filled the room as the guests watched in shocked silence. Adam surged forward, his face twisted in anger. "Get away from her," he shouted, grabbing his mother's arm and pulling her back. "You have no right to treat her like this." His words rang out, but in that moment, I realized just how serious things had become. My wedding day, the day I had dreamed of for so long, had turned into a nightmare, a battlefield with my in-laws as the enemy. Larry and Jessica stormed out, leaving the room filled with a heavy, stunned silence. I was left standing there, a mix of anger and devastation washing over me. They had ruined what should have been the happiest day of my life, but I felt a resolve harden in my heart. I refused to let them have the last word, and I was determined that this humiliation wouldn't define me. It was time to take a stand, to show them that I was more than just a dishwasher from a modest background. I was ready to reclaim my dignity, no matter the cost. After the disaster that was our wedding day, everything felt fragile, as if the ground beneath Adam and me had cracked. We tried to pick up the pieces, but there was a tension between us that neither of us could shake. That night, as we returned home, Adam looked at me, guilt and sadness etched into his face. "I'm so sorry, Rachel. I never thought they'd actually show up like that," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "It's not your fault," I replied softly, though my heart ached with embarrassment. "But I can't just forget what happened. They think I'm nothing because of my job, because of where I come from." Adam took my hands, his grip firm and reassuring. "You are so much more than that. I love you for who you are, not for what you do. We'll figure this out together." Despite his words, I couldn't shake the anger building inside me. I had been humiliated, pushed to the ground in front of everyone. My dignity had been stripped away, and I couldn't let that go. I needed to stand up for myself. I needed to show them that they couldn't treat me like this and get away with it. In the days following the wedding, as the events replayed in my mind, my determination only grew stronger. I reached out to Brian Lara, an old friend from law school. Brian had always believed in me and encouraged my dreams. I knew he'd understand the anger and the need for justice that now burned inside me. When we met at a cozy coffee shop, Brian looked at me with concern. "Rachel, it's been too long," he said, his eyes scanning my face. "What's going on? You look like you've been through a war." I took a deep breath, steadying myself as I began to tell him everything: the wedding, the humiliation, and my determination to take a stand against the Yeager family. As I spoke, Brian listened intently, his expression shifting from concern to understanding, and then to admiration. "They had no right to treat you like that," he said firmly. "And if you're ready to stand up for yourself, I'll help you. Let's show them that you're more than just a dishwasher, that you're someone to be respected." With Brian's support, I felt my confidence build. I knew that reclaiming my dignity wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to fight for it. This wasn't just about standing up to my in-laws. It was about standing up for myself and proving to everyone that I was someone who deserved respect and love. Over the next few weeks, with Brian's guidance, I began to navigate the complicated world of social expectations, family judgments, and my own determination. I wasn't just fighting for acceptance. I was fighting for myself. And through it all, Adam was by my side, his love and loyalty giving me strength. This journey wasn't one I had expected, and it certainly wasn't easy, but it was mine. I was no longer just a dishwasher, no longer just the girl from a modest background. I was Rachel, a woman determined to stand tall, no matter who tried to push her down. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts as I looked across the table at Brian. "Brian, I need your help," I said, my voice firm with a determination I hadn't felt before. Adam's parents humiliated me in front of everyone at my own wedding. I want to expose their hypocrisy and show the world who they really are. Brian raised an eyebrow. His interest piqued. "What do you have in mind?" I leaned forward, sharing the plan that had been forming in my mind since that disastrous day. "I want to investigate Larry and Catherine's import-export business. I've heard whispers about shady dealings for years, but if we can get solid evidence, I want to reveal to everyone that their wealth isn't as clean as they make it out to be." Brian's eyes narrowed with focus, his expression serious. "All right, I can help with that. Let's start gathering information and see where it leads." For weeks, we dove headfirst into researching the Yeager family business. Every evening after work, I pored over documents, public records, and industry reports, while Brian used his network to connect with people who knew the Yeager family or had worked with them. The more we uncovered, the more suspicious things appeared. Rumors about unregistered exports, tax evasion, and questionable partnerships surfaced. But we needed concrete proof if we wanted to bring down a family with the wealth and influence of the Yeager. Then, one afternoon, while combing through public records, Brian stumbled across a crucial discovery. "Rachel, look at this," he called out, pointing to a document on his laptop. I leaned over to read it, and my heart skipped a beat. "They've been under investigation for potential tax fraud," he said, excitement flashing in his eyes. "If we can gather enough evidence, we might actually bring them down." A surge of excitement and a hint of fear flooded through me. "This is it, Brian. We're on to something real. But we have to dig even deeper." As the investigation continued, I felt a new strength building within me. I was no longer the shy girl working at a diner. I was a woman on a mission, determined to reclaim my dignity and fight back against the prejudice and insults I had endured. Each piece of evidence we uncovered felt like a victory, each step forward a reclaiming of my power. I wasn't just doing this for myself. I was doing it to stand up to people who used their influence to belittle others. Adam was supportive, but understandably worried. One evening, as I updated him on our progress, he looked at me with a mix of admiration and concern. "Rachel, I love that you're standing up for yourself, but are you sure you want to keep going? This could get risky." I took his hand, squeezing it gently. "I have to do this, Adam. I can't let them get away with treating me like I'm worthless. This isn't just about me. It's about everyone they've looked down on." He nodded, though I could see the worry in his eyes. "Just promise me you'll be careful. I don't want to lose you in this fight." Weeks turned into months as Brian and I meticulously pieced together our case against the Yeager family. I spent late nights analyzing financial records, piecing together suspicious transactions, and even interviewing former employees who had left under strange circumstances. With each new discovery, my resolve only grew stronger. I felt like a warrior preparing for a battle I hadn't expected, but was now fully committed to. Then, just when we thought we had enough to move forward, we hit an unexpected roadblock. One night, Brian called me, his voice tense and serious. "Rachel," he began, "I just got word that the Yeager family knows someone is digging into their business. They're not going to let this go without a fight." My heart raced. "What do you mean?" "They're looking into you," he warned. "They might try to intimidate you, or worse." Fear gripped me for a moment, but it quickly turned into resolve. I wasn't about to let them scare me off. "Let them try," I said, my voice steady. "I won't back down." In the days that followed, I took extra precautions. I was aware of my surroundings, and I made sure that all our files and evidence were stored securely. But the Yeager family didn't waste time. A few days later, I received a call from an unknown number. When I answered, a cold voice on the other end said, "This is a warning. Stop digging, or there will be consequences." My hands shook, but I refused to let the fear show in my voice. "I'm not afraid of you. You can't silence the truth." As the line went dead, I knew I was in deep, but I was more determined than ever. The intimidation attempts only confirmed what I'd already suspected. The Yeager family had secrets they'd do anything to protect. But I was willing to face them head-on. With Brian by my side and Adam supporting me, I continued my fight for justice. Slowly, we began building connections with journalists who were interested in uncovering corruption, and I filed reports with the authorities. I knew it wouldn't be easy and that there were risks involved, but I also knew I wasn't alone. I had people who believed in me, and I was finally standing up for the dignity and respect I deserved. This journey had been a difficult one, filled with moments of fear, but also with resilience. I was no longer just the dishwasher they had dismissed. I was a woman fighting for herself and for others who had been pushed down. As we moved forward, one thing became clear. I wouldn't let anyone, no matter how powerful, define my worth or silence my voice. This was my story now, one of courage, justice, and a relentless fight for truth. And I was ready to see it through, no matter the cost. I refused to let fear silence me. Each day that passed, I realized that my fight against the Yeager family was no longer about revenge. It was about standing up for myself and proving my worth. I wanted the world to see that I was no victim and that I had risen from a humble dishwasher to someone capable of taking on the powerful. With Adam by my side, I felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. But I also knew we were stepping into dangerous territory. The Yeager family wielded influence that could make my life difficult, and I was just one woman with a dream and a mission. Little did I know, the confrontation awaiting me would change everything. The tension in the air was thick as Brian and I prepared to take the next steps. We had gathered significant evidence against Larry and Catherine's import-export business, financial records, shady transactions, and testimony from former employees who had witnessed questionable practices. But we needed to be cautious. The stakes were high, and one wrong move could mean disaster. "Rachel, are you sure you're ready for this?" Brian asked one evening as we sat in my small apartment. Documents lay sprawled across the table like pieces of a battlefield map. "I have to be," I replied, my voice steady with determination. "I won't let them keep hurting people with their illegal dealings. It's time to expose them for who they really are." Brian nodded, though I saw a hint of worry in his eyes. "All right. Let's make sure everything is in place. Once we go public with this, there's no turning back." With our plan finalized, we decided to approach a local news station known for its investigative reporting. We met with Julie Nimoy, a seasoned journalist famous for her commitment to exposing the truth. Sitting in a small conference room, I felt a mix of excitement and nervous energy. "Tell me everything," Julie said, pen poised above her notepad, her expression serious. I took a deep breath and began to recount the story, from the humiliation I endured at my wedding to the Yeager family's disdain for my background, and finally to the details we had uncovered about their illegal business operations. I laid out every detail, showing her the evidence we had gathered, financial statements, interviews, and the hours of research Brian had painstakingly compiled. As Julie listened, her eyes widened, and I could see her sense of responsibility grow with each piece of evidence. "This is serious," she said, her voice unwavering. "If everything you're saying is true, I can help you expose them. We'll create a detailed report and get this story out to the public." A surge of adrenaline rushed through me. For the first time since the wedding, I felt empowered. With Julie's help, we would reveal the truth, not just for my sake, but for everyone who had suffered under the Yeager family's unethical practices. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of work with the news station. Julie and her team were thorough, verifying every detail, cross-referencing evidence, and interviewing former employees who were willing to share their experiences. As the story came together, I could feel the Yeager family's presence looming closer. My phone buzzed constantly with notifications about rumors spreading online, stories aimed at tarnishing my reputation, bringing up my humble background, and labeling me a gold digger to damage my credibility. "Rachel, they're trying to discredit you," Brian said one day, his expression tense as he scrolled through social media posts filled with misleading information about my past. "They're going to do everything they can to undermine you." "I know," I replied, clenching my fists. But I'm not going to let them intimidate me. As the story's release drew near, the Yeager family's tactics intensified. One night, I found a letter slipped under my apartment door, threatening that if I continued, there would be consequences. I felt a jolt of fear, but I quickly brushed it aside. I wouldn't back down now. Their intimidation only fueled my resolve. Finally, the day arrived. Julie's report went live, accompanied by a broadcast segment detailing every piece of evidence we had collected. It was all there: the tax fraud investigation, the unregistered exports, and the countless ways they had exploited their power for personal gain. The report was comprehensive, backed by testimonies and evidence that painted a clear picture of the Yeager family's illegal empire. As the story spread, public outrage grew. People began to see the truth behind the polished facade of Larry and Catherine Yeager, and their once unshakable reputation started to crumble. News outlets picked up the story, and online discussions erupted. The backlash was intense, and the Yeager family couldn't silence it this time. Adam stood by me through it all, his support unwavering. One evening, he took my hands and looked at me, his eyes filled with pride. "Rachel, you did it. You stood up for yourself and revealed the truth. I couldn't be more proud of you." The days that followed were a mix of relief and exhaustion. The investigation led to further inquiries into the Yeager family's business, and authorities were finally taking a closer look. Though I knew this battle wasn't entirely over, I had taken a powerful step. I was no longer just the dishwasher they had dismissed. I had shown everyone, including myself, that I was capable of standing up to those who tried to put me down. In the end, this journey wasn't just about exposing the Yeager family. It was about proving to myself that I was stronger than any label, stronger than any attempt to diminish me. I had faced fear, ridicule, and intimidation, and yet I had come out of it with my head held high. This was my story now, a story of courage, resilience, and self-worth. I had fought for my dignity and for justice, and I had won. And from that moment on, I knew there was no challenge too great for me to face. I said firmly, "This fight isn't just about us anymore. It's about showing everyone that they can't get away with this." Finally, the day came when Julie's report was set to air. I sat in my living room, my heart racing as I watched the news. The screen flickered on, and there was Julie, calm and professional. "Tonight, we expose a local family accused of illegal activities in their business dealings," she announced. My heart leaped as she laid out all the details we had uncovered. I felt a mix of pride and fear. This was it. We were revealing the truth about the Yeager family, exposing their secrets for everyone to see. But just as I thought I was ready for anything, the phone rang. It was Adam. "Rachel, you need to come home right now." "It's urgent," he said, his voice tense. "What's wrong?" I asked, feeling panic rise inside me. "Just come home, please," he insisted. I rushed back to our apartment, fear gripping me. When I got there, I found Adam pacing, his face pale and troubled. "What's going on?" I demanded. "It's about my parents," he said, running a hand through his hair. "They've been watching you, Rachel. They're furious about the report." Before I could respond, there was a loud knock on the door. I looked at Adam, and we exchanged worried glances. "Who is it?" I called out, my voice shaking. "It's the police," a voice replied from the other side. "We need to speak with you." All my fears hit me at once. I knew the Yeager family wouldn't let this go easily. As I opened the door, I braced myself, realizing this fight was far from over. 5 police officers stood in front of me, looking serious. "Miss Wise," one of them asked, "we need to discuss some claims about your investigation into the Yeager family." Adam stepped forward, clearly upset. "What kind of claims?" he demanded. "Can we come in?" the officer asked, glancing around the hallway. I nodded, my heart racing, and led them into the living room. The tension was thick as I tried to stay calm. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "We received an anonymous tip," the officer explained. "It claims that you and your friend may have faked evidence against the Yeager family." He watched my reaction closely. I felt a surge of anger. "That's ridiculous. Everything we found is real." We followed the law, and we have evidence to prove it. The officer raised his hand calmly. We're not accusing you of anything yet, but we do need to verify these claims. We'd like to see the evidence you've collected. Adam looked at me, worry in his eyes. Rachel, they're trying to turn this around on you. They're scared. I took a deep breath, gathering my resolve. I won't let them intimidate us. They may have power and money, but we have the truth. After the officers left, I knew this battle was far from over. The Yeager family wouldn't go down without a fight, but neither would I. I looked at Adam, whose worry was just as deep as mine. We can't back down now. We need to gather all our evidence and be ready for anything. For the next few days, we worked nonstop, gathering every document, testimony, and piece of information we had found. My phone buzzed constantly with notifications, including threats from anonymous accounts trying to scare me. But I refused to let fear control me. Finally, the day came when the police returned for our evidence. We presented everything carefully: financial records, testimonies from former employees, and proof of the Yeager family's illegal activities. With each piece we showed, my heart raced, a mix of worry and determination. After looking over everything, the officers left, promising to investigate the Yeager family thoroughly. I knew this was a big step forward, but the fight wasn't over. The Yeager family was still powerful, and I knew they would try to strike back. That night, I called Brian. I need your help. I feel like they're going to hit back soon, I admitted. We'll stay ahead of them. You're not alone in this fight, Brian assured me, reminding me that I had friends who believed in me. The following weeks felt like a long, tense wait. Then, out of nowhere, we got a breakthrough. Julie reached out to tell me that her investigation had gained attention. News of the police investigation into the Yeager family had leaked, and suddenly, their empire was under the spotlight. As the media began covering the story, I felt a wave of relief. People started showing their support online, sharing their own stories of facing injustice. I was no longer just a victim. I had become a symbol of resilience. In the end, Larry and Jessica Yeager were arrested on multiple charges, including tax fraud and illegal exports. As news of their downfall spread, I felt a sense of justice. I had fought back against the judgment and betrayal that once tried to define me. Through it all, Adam stood by my side, stronger than ever. You did this, Rachel. You stood up for what was right, he said one evening, pulling me close. We did this, I replied, knowing that his love and support had given me strength. I had gone from being a dishwasher to someone who took on powerful enemies. I hadn't just reclaimed my dignity. I'd built a new future. I graduated law school with honors and began working as an advocate for others facing injustice. At my graduation, as I stood at the podium delivering a speech about resilience and justice, I knew my journey was only beginning. The fight against prejudice wasn't over, but I was ready to face it head-on, proving that a person's worth isn't defined by their background or wealth, but by their integrity, loyalty, and courage to stand up for themselves. And so, my story continues, with hope, strength, and the unwavering belief that love can overcome even the darkest challenges.